The Dyatlov Pass Incident. On the night of February 1st, 1959, 9 hikers made a decision that still doesn't make sense. They cut their way out of their own tent. Not through the door, through the fabric, from the inside. Then they ran. Barefoot or in socks, some without coats, some without pants, into a blizzard in temperatures of nearly minus 30 degrees Celsius, down a slope covered in ice toward a forest over a kilometer away. Whatever they were running from, they believed it was more dangerous than freezing to death. And in the end, freezing to death is exactly what happened to most of them. But not all of them. Some had injuries that, according to the doctors who examined them, looked like they'd been hit by a car. One woman was missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lips. And some of their clothing was giving off levels of radiation that nobody could explain. For over 60 years, this case has been picked apart by scientists, journalists, conspiracy theorists, and the Russian government itself. And there are pieces of it that even today don't fully add up. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why some investigators think they finally cracked it, and why others think that answer.
Chapter 1. The Expedition. To understand why this case has haunted investigators for 6 decades, you have to start with who these people actually were, because this wasn't a group of amateurs who wandered somewhere they shouldn't have. In late January 1959, 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute set out on a skiing expedition through the northern Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. Their goal was to reach Otorten Mountain, a grueling trip of over 300 kilometers through some of the harshest winter terrain in the country. This wasn't a casual hike. Under Soviet rules, a successful trip like this one would earn each hiker Grade 3 hiking certification, the highest awarded at the time. Every member of the group was experienced. Several had already completed hikes of similar difficulty. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was 23 years old, technically skilled, and known for being calm and methodical under pressure. Exactly the kind of person you'd want leading a group through terrain like this. On January 27th, one member of the group, Yuri was forced to turn back due to knee and joint pain. It was a small, unremarkable decision. It also saved his life. Yudin would live until 2013, and for the rest of his life, he was the only person who could speak about his friends as someone who had actually been there, right up until the moment everything went wrong. The remaining 9 hikers pressed on: Igor Dyatlov, Zenaida Kolmogorova, Ludmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Rustam Slobodin, Yuri Doroshenko, Yuri Krivonishenko, Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, and Alexander Zolotaryov, the oldest of the group at 38 and the only one not a student at the institute. They planned to reach Otorten and return by February 12th. Dyatlov had told his sports club that if they were even a few days late, not to worry. Bad weather could easily delay them. February 12th came and went. No word. A few more days passed. Still nothing. By February 20th, families were demanding answers, and the Soviet authorities finally organized a search party of students, volunteers, and eventually the military and police. What they found would turn a missed deadline into one of the most disturbing case files in Soviet history.
Chapter 2. The Discovery. On February 26th, a search team found the group's tent, partially collapsed under snow on the slope of a mountain the local Mansi people called Kholat Syakhl. That name existed long before 1959. It's a coincidence, but it's the kind of coincidence that gets repeated in every article and video about this case, because it's genuinely unsettling. Inside the tent, searchers found something strange almost immediately. All of the hikers' belongings, their boots, their coats, their food, were still there, neatly arranged, the way you'd expect from experienced campers settling in for the night. But the tent itself had several long cuts in the fabric, and they weren't cuts made to get in. Investigators determined they were made from the inside to get out, fast. Footprints led away from the tent, down the slope, toward a tree line more than a kilometer away. The footprints belonged to between 8 and 9 people.
Some were in socks, some were barefoot, in -25 to -30-degree temperatures. Searchers followed the trail into the forest, where they found the remains of a small fire, and nearby, the bodies of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. Both were shirtless. Both had died of hypothermia. Investigators also noticed something odd about a nearby cedar tree. Its branches were broken up to a height of about 5 meters, as if someone had desperately climbed it, possibly to look back toward the tent or to see something. Further up the slope, between the tree and the tent, 3 more bodies were found: Dyatlov himself, Zenaida Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin. Their positions suggested they had been trying to climb back up toward the tent when they died. Slobodin's body showed a small skull fracture, though it wasn't considered severe enough on its own to have been fatal. That left 4 hikers unaccounted for. It would take more than 2 months, until May, for their bodies to be found, buried under several meters of snow in a ravine further into the forest. And when they were finally recovered, the case stopped looking like a story about people freezing in a storm and started looking like something else entirely.
Chapter 4. The Theories. With no real answer from the state, the theories filled the silence. Let's go through the major ones, because understanding why each one gained traction tells you almost as much about this case as the facts themselves. Theory 1. Soviet military involvement. The area wasn't officially restricted, but it was close to zones used for Soviet weapons and rocket testing. Some researchers believe the group stumbled onto a classified test, possibly involving a parachute mine or an early missile, and that the radiation on their clothes and the car crash injuries came from a blast, not the cold. The glowing orange spheres reported by other witnesses that same week only added fuel to this. As recently as 2026, one researcher proposed a specific version of this theory, that a failed Soviet R-12 missile test near Baikonur released a toxic fog that reached the campsite, and that the orbs seen in the sky really were classified missile launches, which the KGB then suppressed.
The problem with this theory isn't that it's impossible. It's that there's still no document, no debris, no residue, and no declassified record that directly places a weapons test at that exact location on that exact night. The Soviet Union classified plenty of things, but a smoking gun for this specific theory has never surfaced. Theory 2. Infrasound-induced panic. Wind blowing over a mountain ridge shaped like the one at Kholat Syakh can, under the right conditions, generate infrasound, extremely low-frequency sound waves that are inaudible, but that some researchers believe can cause nausea, disorientation, and overwhelming irrational panic in humans. Under this theory, the hikers didn't hear a threat. They felt one, physically, without understanding why, and fled the tent in blind panic strong enough to override basic survival instinct, like putting on boots before running into a blizzard. It's a compelling psychological explanation. It's also almost impossible to prove 60+ years after the fact, since there's no way to measure the wind conditions of that exact night anymore. Theory 3. Paranormal and cryptid activity. This is the theory that gets the most attention online and the least support from actual investigators. Some point to Mansi folklore about the mountain itself, Dead Mountain, and to local legends of creatures in the forest, suggesting the group may have encountered something that shouldn't be explainable at all.
There's no physical evidence for this one, but it's worth acknowledging because it's a huge part of why this case still trends online today. The facts are strange enough that even skeptics admit the paranormal explanation doesn't feel completely absurd next to everything else in this file. Theory 4. The avalanche, the current leading explanation. In 2021, two Swiss researchers, an avalanche engineer and a geotechnical engineer, published a study modeling a rare phenomenon called a delayed slab avalanche. Their theory: the hikers cut into the slope to pitch their tent, creating a weak point in the snow. Hours later, a slab of snow, not large enough to bury the tent, but heavy and fast enough to cause serious blunt trauma, broke loose and struck the hikers while they slept. That would explain the chest and skull fractures without external wounds. It would explain why they fled the tent in a state of panic and injury rather than getting dressed properly. And subsequent field expeditions to the site did confirm that small slab avalanches are physically possible on that slope, even though it doesn't look steep enough at first glance. This is currently the most scientifically credible explanation, and the one most documentaries, including this one, have to treat as the leading theory. But, and this is important, it doesn't explain everything. Critics point out that rescuers who reached the tent found no clear evidence of a slide. The missing eyes and tongue on Dubinima's body are more consistent with natural decomposition and small scavengers over the 2 months her body was missing than with any avalanche. And the radiation on the clothing has never been fully explained by the avalanche theory at all. So even the solved version of this case leaves cracks. That's the part that keeps this story alive.
Chapter 5. What's Left Unanswered. Here's where most videos about the Dyatlov Pass incident wrap up. It was probably an avalanche. Mystery solved. And for the physical trauma, the broken ribs, the fractured skulls, that's likely true. It's the explanation that best fits the physical evidence, and it's the one backed by actual field research, not speculation. But probably is doing a lot of work in that sentence. It doesn't fully explain the radiation. It doesn't fully explain why witnesses miles away reported glowing orange spheres in the sky that same week. It doesn't explain why the original Soviet investigators, professionals at the time with access to the full case file, chose the phrase "a compelling unknown force" instead of simply writing "avalanche," if that's genuinely all it was. Maybe that phrase was bureaucratic caution. Maybe it was easier than admitting a military accident. Or maybe, even with everything we know now, there's a piece of this case that still doesn't fit. 67 years, several government investigations, and one Nobel-adjacent avalanche study later. Yuri Yudin, the one hiker who turned ACK early and lived, spent the rest of his life being asked what he thought happened to his friends. He never claimed to know for certain. He just said that whatever it was, it had to have been something that terrified 9 experienced, capable people badly enough to make them choose the blizzard over their own tent.
That's the part that no theory has ever fully explained. Not the injuries, not the radiation, the fear. Outro. The Dyatlov Pass is now a protected memorial site. People still visit it. Hikers, researchers, and tourists retracing the group's final route. Most describe it as beautiful. A few describe something else. An unshakable feeling that something is wrong there, even in broad daylight. If you want to go even deeper into cases like this, real files, real investigations, real questions nobody's ever fully answered, that's exactly what this channel is for. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because next week we're opening a new case file that's just as strange as this one. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.